Good evening. The lesson that I have chosen to present today is on teaching students about context clues. The instructional procedure that I have chosen to help me present those context clues lesson is the close procedure. According to the book, it's an informal diagnostic assessment that teachers use to gather information about the reader's ability to deal with the complexity of text that they're reading. One of the big reasons why I wanted to really focus on context clues, because oftentimes students, and even especially English language learners, have a hard time when they run into vocabulary words that are just really difficult or they don't know. So being able to teach them that is a great strategy to help them figure out and determine what the word means, to help them altogether determine what the text is saying. So what this procedure does is it actually has you have the students read aloud or even to themselves a text. There are words in the text that they may not know, and then it actually says to have them delete every fifth word in the passage and then replace it with blanks. Once the students are done with that, they're going to read the passage and then fill in the missing words using their knowledge of syntax and semantics to successfully predict the meaning of the missing words in the text. Now, for this presentation or this lesson plan that I have, I actually wanted to change the procedure just a little bit. So in my lesson, you'll see that I have, again, I'm going to be working with context clues, but there will be a point where I'll have my students go over an entire, I have it here. They'll go over an entire story, and then they have words that are a little bit more difficult, but more so vocabulary words that they have the meaning of. But what I'm going to have them do is I'm going to have them circle the word in the paragraph here, and then when they read it again, they're going to replace the word with the definition so that they can understand what is really being said. So for example, it says that the tribe had migrated to Florida in the 1700s. Well, migrate is one of their vocabulary words. So they would replace the word migrated with the tribe moved from one area to another to Florida in the 1700s. And I think that by them replacing it with the definition of a word, it will allow them to better understand the text. I think that when it comes to context clues, you really have to know what the surrounding words are saying or are meaning. And sometimes even if you were to use a dictionary or of some sort to find the meaning of a word, when they go back to read it, they don't always remember what it meant. So I think if they were able to find the word and then or find the meaning of the word and then replace it with the word itself, it could allow them to understand what the text is saying a little bit better. And then once they are able to do that, I think then we can move on to helping them figure out the context clues to finding that word. So I wanted to go through my lesson plan. The first thing that I would have my students do is I would ask them what happens and what do they do in particular when they're reading and they run into a word that they don't necessarily understand. So I wasn't able to get a English language learner or even a student or anyone that would be able to help with this, so I'll just kind of do it by myself. So here we go. Alrighty, class. Today we are going to be working on vocabulary. I wanted to know, what do you do when you find a word that you come across, whether it be in writing, whether it be when somebody is speaking to you? What do you do when you don't know the meaning of a word? At this time, I'll wait for volunteers to tell me what they would do. I assume some would say that they would guess, some would say that they wouldn't even worry about it, or yeah, I think those are some of the answers that I would get in that. After that, I would have them share with a partner. So go ahead and share with a partner some of the ways that you know, some of the strategies that you know you could do, possibly using a dictionary, Googling it. What could you do if you came across a word that you don't know? Once I'm able to gather them all in again, I want to ask them, with technology so heavy in just our lives and our generation, and especially the upcoming generation, what happens when they're reading something and they don't have the ability to Google it or to find a dictionary? What can they do? Does anyone know what they can do in order to help them determine the meaning of that word? So this is where I'll go into a little bit more of the instruction and the definition of context clues. So context clues are using the surrounding words or surrounding sentences in order to really try to figure out what a specific word is meaning. So I will be handing out this worksheet here to my students. It's on context clues and finding word meanings. We are going to go over the first 3 as a class, and then the rest of the 7 sentences will be done as individuals. So the directions say to read the sentences below and then read the underlined word in the sentence. Circle the answer choice that has the same meaning as the underlined word. Now, we would go through the first one. So the first one is, the student replied to the teacher with a witty answer and the class laughed. So I would have them read the underlined word, which is witty, circle the answer choice that has the same meaning of the underlined word. What I'm asking them to do is not guess, but to find a piece in that sentence that can help them determine what witty could mean. And what the part of the sentence that can help them identify that is the fact that the class laughed. So therefore, the student couldn't have replied something mean and the class laughed. And it doesn't make sense for the student to reply with just a word answer and the class laughed. That doesn't tell us that the class laughed. But the student definitely could have replied to the teacher with a funny answer. And because it was funny, that's why the class laughed. So we will be circling A as the answer to this one here. The next one here is, I looked at my brother with a glare after he broke my toy. Now, we have to understand the situation here. The context clues around glare. If he broke our toy, how would we feel about this? Would we be confused? Maybe not. I looked at my brother with a difficult after. That one just doesn't make sense. But if he broke my toy, I would probably be looking at him with a dirty look. So, dirty look would be our answer. The last one is, fireworks on the 4th of July give off a beautiful glimmer in the sky. Does it give off a beautiful look? And then what kind of context clues can we use in this one? And I think just the word beautiful in itself has to tell something. So if it's beautiful, is it always bright? Probably not. Is it a look? Probably not. So then we would go into how it could be a glow, and a glow can be something that is beautiful. So we'll go with glow. Now the students are going to go through this. At this time, I would allow my English learners to be able to work with a student who excels in language arts in this excuse me, the subject in particular. So what I really wanted to get into and how I'm going to be using the instructional procedure is in our nonfiction comprehension using context clues and text features. So this paper here, again, like I said, it goes through the paragraph and then it gives us some words. So in my lesson plan, I have the English language learners coming to a group table with me. I was going to read, so I'll read the paragraph aloud to them. Not very loud, but at least a little bit. And then they're going to go through the paragraph and identify all the words that are in our box here. So as I go through it, I'm going to have them read it. And then what I want them to really do is read the word, or read the text with the definition rather than the word. So I think the reason why I want them to do that is because, again, it's the first step in helping them to be able to determine or understand why that word in particular means that. And then once they can put the definition into the passage, then when they have that good understanding of what the sentence is meaning, then we can look at context clues. I understand that this is kind of working backwards, but I think that it can definitely be effective in helping them to learn how to use context clues. I don't necessarily think that teaching them context clues and forcing them to use them at first, even if they don't know, I think it would be a little bit difficult. But I think if we were to have them use the glossary, which is what this is here, and then find context clues. They can practice that and hopefully eventually be able to just go into a paragraph, find a vocabulary word that they're not familiar with, use, and then be able to use the context, the surrounding sentences, or just the surrounding words in that particular sentence in order to identify and determine the meaning of a word that they're not familiar with. So again, it would be a little bit different from what I'm wanting my regular students to be able to do. They should be able to determine the context clues, the meaning of the word based on the context clues right away, but the English language learners would be able to have a little bit more time one-on-one with me as more of a step before having to determine and use context clues. So I hope this all made sense. I think the instructional procedure is a great way to help a lot of English learners and also just students who are struggling altogether in language arts. So, thank you.